What's up, everybody? Dan Tortora here, and Rob Stacy, myself of Superpowered Pop, and Rob of Green Goliath Toys and Games, coming here to give you Superpowered Goliath every single month. We're hanging out with you, bringing you this show, and giving our thoughts on what's going on in the world of pop culture, and bringing it back to the Funko Pops and everything that's here inside of Green Goliath on 219 County Route 57 in Phoenix, New York. And of course, here in the Three Rivers Plaza, you can call them at 315-561-6123. That's 315-561-6123. Today's topic, WandaVision. Which, if we did this a couple weeks ago, Rob would not have that face. His face is, I told him just to wait. I said, just give it a chance. I know it's going to turn. At the end of episode 3, it's all going to be okay. I'm so happy we waited to do this episode because Rob would have been so much fun to sit with if we did this after 1 and 2. Plenty coming up on WandaVision. Our first topic here inside of WandaVision is seeing the first 2 episodes as TV shows with minimal connection to the outside world. Being in the 50s and the 60s, this is Rob's favorite topic, is the first 2 episodes.
I love black and white.
Yeah,
it's my favorite.
We'll talk about how close he feels to I Love Lucy and the Dick Van Dyke Show in this segment. Rob, I'm going to let you take this one away. Sure. The first 2 episodes of WandaVision that you were so, electrically charged about, so ready for the 50s and 60s. Yeah. Dick Van Dyke. I said I Love Lucy, but it was kind of Bewitched type of thing, too.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts about the first 2 episodes being in black and white, being set in the 50s and 60s, and really having genuinely nothing to do with reality? You and I talked about how we thought that they would spend maybe half of an episode in whatever Wanda's doing and then half in reality. The first 2 episodes, we spent no time in reality.
I know Marvel likes to really milk every second of every event, but man, it was, for me, I was ready to turn it off after episode 2.
Yeah.
I was ready not to go back because I'm not a fan of black and white. I'm not a fan of those old shows too much. So, to me, I just felt like they were kind of beating a dead horse a little bit.
When you heard the radio say, instead of "Help me, Rhonda," that it said "Help me, Wanda."
Okay.
And then it flips through, and you hear him go, "Wanda, who's making you do this?"
1 second of excitement in 2 episodes.
And her finding the helicopter drone.
Okay, but
and the red blood taking away the black and white.
All right, yeah, I know. I understand, but I think they could have done that in an episode.
Yeah,
and let us off.
The first episode when it ended, remember how we talked about there was 7 minutes at the end of what we saw. There was 7 minutes, so I waited throughout all the credits, thinking, well, if there's 7 minutes and 41 seconds, there's got to be another scene. And you and I both waited, and there was nothing after episode 1.
So they could have just done that whole second episode in 7 minutes at the end, and it saved us the agony of going through the rest of the black and white. That's my personal opinion, but
I mean, the first episode was essentially just watching a show.
It was I Love Lucy.
It was watching Nick at Night.
Yeah, and I've done it for 40 years, so I'm done with that stuff.
Yeah,
I need some excitement.
I just wanted Mr. Ed to show up next door.
Yeah, for sure.
So the first 2 episodes really didn't give us much to go off of, but we started to get a feeling that when we saw Monica Rambeau, we started to really get the notion that she didn't know why she was there. And we also got the feeling that the people around Wanda were not okay.
Well, they were, well, for the first show, they were really trying to put you in that, in her world. I do understand that.
Yeah.
But on the flip, I mean, okay, we get it.
Then, why would she make her life a TV show?
Because I think she never, going back to her youth and the way they grew up, that she always wanted just the perfect life.
Yeah.
Never had it with her brother, you know what I mean? So basically they, that was what she wished she had as a child.
Yeah, and trying to get these people to believe it, that not so much in episode 1, but in episode 2, they started to call her bluff a little bit.
Yeah, which is always a mistake, obviously.
Yeah, we learned that. We definitely learned in episode 3 that you can't do that, and we'll talk about that next. Episode 3 is our next topic here, showing us the real world when Sword Agent Monica Rambeau is sent hurling back into the real world. And in episode 3, it shows us the real world a little bit right at the end when Sword Agent Monica Rambeau is sent hurling back into that real world. She decided to say about Wanda's brother, who ends up being Quicksilver.
Yeah.
We find out Pietroff when he is mentioned, she says, "Oh yeah, he was killed by Ultron," and Wanda turns and says, "What did you say?" And then she gives you the look that I've realized when I've dated any woman ever, if I get that look, it's not going to be a good night.
Yep, it's time to wrap it up. Go home.
And I thought that things have been bad, but I've never been thrown through that many walls and out of a dimension, essentially, as we saw Monica Rambeau hurled back into this. And when we see her fly out, there's all of these cars and vehicles that show up immediately. It looks like Area 51. And then we see all of the lights focused on this area, and we see like kind of TV glitching going on in the real world, and we are essentially seeing these lights on this real life static, which really, as I told you, you just had to wait a little bit longer. And episode 3 really showed you, holy crap,
we all knew that.
Yeah.
We knew that was going to happen, but
right.
They just could have done it a little faster.
But did it make you feel good at the end of episode 3 that we saw like that glitch there?
Again, it could have been an episode 2.
You also realize that when you slow down when you slow down Monica Rambeau being hurled out of this pocket universe, whatever it is, when you see her getting hurled out as she's flying through the air, there's red around her, and when she hits the ground, you see it just for a little bit longer, and we obviously know that that is the ether-looking reality stone that Wanda, when she uses her powers, manipulates. So we obviously know that her powers are being utilized in the expulsion of Monica Rambeau as well as in this pocket dimension.
Yeah. Dimension or world? I think it's
universe, dimension, world.
I think it's her own world that she kind of...
She took over a community.
For sure.
Right? And everybody knows that New Jersey's different, and obviously Westview is too.
Yeah. That's a normal Tuesday in Jersey.
Yeah. Jersey's like, oh yeah, have something that's totally unrelated to society. Yeah, that is New Jersey. Passing in the right lane and not the left. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yes.
So episode 3 brings us some shot of reality, which leads us hurling like Monica Rambeau into episode 4. Thank the good Lord God up above that episode 4 happened, or else Rob would not be the Rob that I need him to be for this episode of Superpowered Goliath. Bringing us, episode 4 finally puts us in the real world. It puts us in the world of Sword and everything that is going on outside of, truly, Wanda's vision.
Finally.
I'm going to let you run with this one, my good sir. Speaking here with Rob Stacy, myself, Dan Satora of Superpowered Pop, Rob of Green Goliath Toys and Games. We come together for Superpowered Goliath, the show that you watch that talks about the topics that are on your mind, but then allows you to link back to those topics by coming into the store and getting any one of the amazing things that we have in the rarest Funko Pop place you're going to find in Central and Upstate New York, as well as a place that you'll find so many other things, from Star Wars characters to Marvel to DC. We have some comic books that we have from history as well that are up here on the wall. Things are constantly changing and evolving and growing at Green Goliath, hence the Goliath. And growing, evolving, and changing is WandaVision, which in episode 4 spends time in the real world.
In the real world, finally. Thank you.
Thank you,
Marvel.
And so, bring me into episode 4, finally giving you what you wanted in episode 1.
Well, maybe episode 2, but
Okay.
whatever. I was ready for it. I mean, I just felt like it was time to see really what's going on in this show, and to see how they're going to tie it, not only to, the movies in the past, but how they're going to set up the future and what it's going to, eventually evolve into.
Knowing that we spent the reversal here, like episode 3, it was all of Wanda's world and then the real world. In episode 4, it's all the real world, and then we go back to Wanda at the end, and we're back on the couch with her and Vision holding their sons. What are your thoughts? Well, yeah, what are your thoughts on the fact that, are these babies real?
I don't know. I don't think so, obviously. Hopefully they're just the figment of her imagination. Or maybe they represent her and her brother in in her life, and that
we do know she has kids in the comics.
Yeah.
We do know they have names, and we do know that I believe Nightmare takes her children from her, because Wanda continually be tortured by tragedy and loss is what I believe will make her the main, if not one of the main villains of Phase 4. I think she's going to be one of the main villains.
I think
if not the villain.
Well, I think this is setting that up right now.
Well, because Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I think, is going to be Wanda throwing... She's going to basically, in my opinion, potentially be ripping holes in the universes to create a multiverse in order to keep her life together.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange is going to be trying to stop her, which eventually, as he says to her, Wanda, you can't have Vision, you can't have your kids, you can't have your perfect life.
It's going to drive her crazy.
It's going to drive her mad. And eventually, we're going to see her evolution as a member, potentially, of the X-Men. And then we're going to meet her daddy, Magneto.
Dope.
Having Magneto and Doctor Doom at some point come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
We've only been waiting forever. They have obviously introduced both of them previously.
Yeah.
But to bring them back into the current is going to be, exciting.
I want to play a hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But if I played any villain, the one I know that they would never kill is Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
They wouldn't kill him.
I'd go with Red Hulk.
Because he makes Battle World. Well, we're going to see Red Hulk. I have already said on record, probably a year ago, or close to a year ago, that I believe I said it with Jared Horton. Shout out to you, brother. But I said I believe that Black Widow will introduce, and I trust my gut. When it comes to these shows, I'm not wrong with a lot of stuff. I think she will introduce 5 characters. Some we've seen in previews, like Red Guardian and whatnot. But I think she's going to introduce 5 new characters to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Including
Red Hulk, yes. I think General Thunderbolt Ross is finally going to show his true color.
Well, hopefully he won't be as... how can I put this politely? As soft as the Green Hulk.
Okay.
And how they made him out to be against Thanos, which I was fairly disappointed, because I am a huge Hulk fan.
Well, I think now that maybe him and Banner are working together, maybe they would pack a better punch.
I don't think they should have made him.
He's got to get mean again.
So soft.
Professor Hulk I don't trust him to end a lot of battles.
No, it's got to come savage, for sure.
But Red Hulk is Thunderbolt Ross, who is off of his rocker. And I believe the Abomination at some point is going to come back.
Yeah, it seems like they would have to. Probably have them all three in the same movie.
Another character. And mind you, folks, that the Incredible Hulk Universal Studios picture is the only Marvel Cinematic Universe canon story that was not made by Marvel Studios.
That's right. Because Universal owned it at the time.
And that's when we met. That's when we got to meet Thunderbolt Ross, who had a meeting with Tony, and it was kind of interesting that he was drinking a green liquor.
That's right, and that's why they have the Hulk ride at Universal.
So we know that we've been teasing the Red Hulk for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I hope they just get their stuff together and just do it.
Well, yeah, I think, and like I said, Black Widow. 5 characters, and I have a lot of stuff about Black Widow that we'll have to save for another show, including who I think is behind the Taskmaster's mask.
Ooh.
Our next piece here in WandaVision from Green Goliath Toys and Games, a Superpowered Pop, is here with you on 219 County Route 57 in Phoenix, New York, in the Three Rivers Plaza. You can call them to get information on what they have and tell Rob what you're looking for. 315-561-6123. That's 315-561-6123, and you can go to their social media channels to get their times when they are open for you here in the Central and Upstate New York community. We continue the WandaVision conversation with the fact that in Episode 4, we're essentially playing back things that occurred in prior episodes, and we get the first sighting of Dead Vision.
Just a blip.
Just a blip of Dead Vision.
Yeah.
Here with Superpowered Pop on site at Green Goliath Toys and Games, myself, Dan Tortora of Superpowered Pop, Rob Stacy of Green Goliath. We essentially play back through the prior episodes. So once we get to Episode 4, we figure out how we get to see it on the TV set. And speaking of Thor, we get to see a character return from the original Thor. We get to see a doctor come back into the swing of things. And speaking of doctor, we get to see Dead Vision. A little bit of Marvel Zombie Vision, maybe. Yeah, and a discolored, hole in his head Vision. So what are your thoughts on the fact that Episode 4 basically showed us how we got everything on the TV set that we've been watching, and that the hands that were on that TV set in Episode 1 come from a doctor we know all too well from the beginning of Thor, and that we also know from Two Broke Girls. And and that dead Kat Dennings, shout out to her. And so what do you think about the fact that we now realize that we've been watching on her video, we've been essentially watching on her television, and she's the one that's really helped Sword and everybody work together to figure this out. So she's now got a huge part in getting us to the TV set, number one, and that we finally have seen Dead Vision.
I think Dead Vision was the most exciting part of this whole 4-part series so far. I mean, really, again, I know I'm a little Debbie Downer on these first 4 episodes, but I thought they were kind of, they're okay. I mean, they weren't great. I could have used a little bit more excitement myself, but
knowing that Thor 1 brought us to WandaVision.
Yeah, that's Marvel. Marvel will always do that.
I mean, you got to think about how deeply they have to plan for the plan of the plan of the plan of the plan to link this all together and somehow find a way to bring in Kat Dennings' character to bring us to the TV set. What do you think about the fact that she did that, though?
Or do they just sit there with a deck of cards and say, who can we put together?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, you can always find a way to bring everybody back.
Well, it's clever.
It is.
It definitely is, for sure.
It's like watching General Hospital. Nobody's ever dead.
Nobody's ever dead.
So, that leads me to the question, is Vision actually dead?
No. They're going to bring him back.
So you don't think he's dead?
No.
Then why did we see Dead Vision?
I think that was...
was that Wanda's fears coming back?
Yeah, it was a part of her showing her...
thinking that she maybe lost control?
No, I think it was her blipping back to reality just for a split second. It was like her... maybe she lost concentration type of deal.
Right.
And it just, it made her realize, not realize, but showed her a crack in her psyche that,
So you don't think he's dead? You think she's realizing she's kind of almost playing back because of what Monica Rambeau said?
Oh, no, he's dead.
Okay, so he is dead.
He is dead, but they're going to bring him back.
So you think Marvel's going to bring him back, but at the time that Wanda is with him in the first 4 episodes, that he's dead.
I misunderstood. Yeah.
Because at some point,
yes,
he says, in the previews, Wanda, let's fight for our home and this and that. But there's also something I picked up on in the first few episodes that would prove that he's not dead. In the fact that he's realizing there's something wrong, like everybody else is, and he has the ability to speak to these people. So he's trapped in this universe as much as they are, which would make me believe that he has his own knowledge, which would make me believe that if he thinks he's trapped and everybody else knows that they're trapped, that he's under a spell, but he's not dead. Because how would he have the wherewithal to know that there's something wrong? Because he questions Wanda throughout the entire thing.
That's fair, but on the flip, then they're going to have to do the backstory on how he's alive, because they did show the blip that he was dead.
Well, we know that Shuri was almost figuring out how to take the Mind Stone out and keep him alive.
So they're going to have to fill that backstory.
And the fact that, did Wanda bring him to Shuri? What did she do in the meantime?
Right.
Because I don't believe, in any stretch of the imagination, that they would bring Vision to us as a small of a role that Vision had.
No.
It makes no sense to kill off Vision in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as quickly as they did.
Well, no, because he has so many links and so many storylines from Avengers all the way through.
And I really don't feel like we got to know him that well.
Yeah, that is true. But I think they're definitely going to bring him back. I don't know how.
So you think in Wanda's world?
At the moment, I think he's dead.
You think he's dead in her world? I think he's alive.
Well, we will see.
We will see. And for those of you that care about timelines, because we know that none of the Marvel Cinematic Universe fans are ever trying to prove anybody wrong. Never. We know that we now have jumped into the reality of when this is happening, when Wanda is creating this universe, whatever she's doing, because we see the blip. We see the effects of the blip, and this is one of my favorite topics that we've done in our young show of Superpowered Pop, joining Green Goliath for Superpowered Goliath here with you on all of our Superpowered Pop and Green Goliath channels, is seeing the blip and the effects, and really what you don't think about. An overcrowded hospital, people appearing on streets that could get hit by cars. I mean, you could essentially come back from the blip and die. You could come back from the blip in a hospital bed that somebody else is already in. Or your family member's waiting for you, and you show up in a hospital bed with another family. It could be anything. We don't know what's happening. You could show up in the treehouse that you were in.
Perfect.
We have no idea. The thing you don't think about is we wanted everybody's life to be set back. We wanted everyone who lost their life to Thanos to have their life back. But what that actually did to society is pretty crazy. And we get to see the effects of that inside of episode 4 of WandaVision. Go blip yourself. Okay, so we're talking about the blip right now. It's time to get into this.
So many blips.
So many blipping. We're blipping people off the universe. And so the blip, we know that when people died, 5 years went by before the Avengers had any type of a plan.
Yeah.
And within all of this time, we realized that Monica was, 2 years into this blip, her mom is still alive.
Yes.
And she comes back, she wakes up in the chair next to the hospital bed where she's thinking her mother Maria is going to be. And Maria's not there. She's told by the doctor that she died 3 years ago. So during the blip, with these 5 years that have passed, you forget, folks, that so much could change. People are living, people are dying, there's babies being born, there's people passing away. And when all of this is going on, the world becomes repopulated with well, every universe, I mean, the universe and every planet everywhere becomes populated again with that half of everything that was snapped away by Thanos. And we see a very real scene of Monica Rambeau coming back, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, her dust reforming itself in a very, very cool initial scene, but then also seeing the effects of the blip in the sense of these people are reappearing where they were when they were blipped away, and they're banging into each other. And one of the doctors says, we don't have enough rooms in the hospital for everybody. So the blip, essentially, you wouldn't think this, is causing problems. And once again, Marvel hit us with a storyline that we didn't think of.
No. So it's basically gonna. So not only are there, there's repopulation of in that 5 years, and then also there's going to be the people coming back. So how do you deal with that?
Well, you think about parents that lost their kids in the blip, so they have more children, and they say, okay, we lost 2 kids, so we have another 2, and now they have 4.
Sweet. Basketball team.
You know? But it puts you in a world. I mean, you think about it. This blip is going to affect money. It's going to affect jobs because the CEO's coming back that's been replaced. It's affecting hospital beds. This return of all of these beings all over the universe is a very, morally charged. It's a beautiful thing, and in reality, it's going to cause a lot of resource, money, job. It's going to cause issue. House. Who's living? I mean, somebody's gone, somebody moves into... What happens when you go back to your house that somebody else is living in? What happens when you reappear on the couch and somebody says, I bought this house?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we're going to see, huh?
I mean, the crazy thing about... your store right now could be a Chinese restaurant. It could be a buffet right now.
It could be.
We're appearing here, and there's a bunch of people eating at a buffet behind us while we're trying to do the show. So, you don't think about the fact that the world in 5 years has gone on without these beings, and now we have to figure out a way to let everybody exist together again.
Right, because that's what most people don't realize. Most people think that when they redid the snap and they're back, they're starting from where they left, but that's not the case. Yeah. It's 5 years later.
Monica finding out that her mother has passed away, and not only passed away, but that she didn't see her, that she passed away 3 years ago, and that she didn't get to spend the last 2 years of her mother's life with her because of Thanos. So Thanos took her life, then she got it back from Tony, aka Iron Man, but then she still lost her time with her mother. So she lost her life to gain her life to lose time with her mom.
Yeah.
So Thanos really, honestly, even though Tony prevented what Thanos did, Thanos still screwed over Monica Rambeau.
She did, so she's probably thankful that Thor chopped his head off.
Yeah, exactly. You got to always go for the head.
For sure.
So, seeing this and seeing the fact that, the blip has had this effect has really put us in a place where we have a lot of questions, and I wonder how much Marvel is going to dive into the bigger story of the blip. I almost feel like they should do an MCU Disney Plus show that's called The Blip.
I think it would be really messy.
Because you can't spend time in Thor, and you can make references, but there's no way you're going to go to Thor and Captain America and all of their movies and spend 2 hours on the blip.
That's just so deep. How would they possibly explain?
It's almost like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, so basically they could make hours of movies just explaining how that happened and the results and the...
So even though Thanos lost, he still had an effect on the world. So what he did, even though it was undone, was never completely undone. So Thanos still, in a very sick, sad way, he still won.
He's a winner. Minus his head.
It's ridiculous. We have plenty more to talk about, though, even though we just depressed you. The other piece that we have here is finding out that Monica's mom, Maria, the best friend of Captain Marvel, as seen in Captain Marvel's standalone movie, is not only created S.W.O.R.D., but was also called Photon. I actually have the comic book of Photon. So,
cool.
Holla at me if you want it. But the reality of it all is we learn a lot about Monica Rambeau's mom, Maria, because we saw her in Captain Marvel, and we know that her and Miss Captain Marvel were working together and were flying planes at one point together. But now we know that Maria Rambeau created S.W.O.R.D. and that she was called Photon. And we can only imagine that at some point her story is going to be told, and maybe this is a setup for Captain Marvel 2. Our next piece here in the WandaVision conversation here with Superpowered Pop, myself, Dan Tortora, and of Green Goliath Toys and Games, Mr. Rob Stacy, here with us for Superpowered Goliath, where we bring you every single month shows from inside of Green Goliath Toys and Games on 219 County Route 57 in Phoenix, New York, in the Three Rivers Plaza, and it's ever-changing. So what you see on the wall here, you're not going to see in every show. It's going to keep changing because you're going to come in, you're going to buy stuff, Rob's going to find stuff, and things are just going to mutate. We can say that when we talk about Marvel now,
mutate,
because 20th Century Fox has a new daddy, and that is the mouse. And so with that being said, as we learn these things in episode 4, we find out more about Monica's mom, and that she created S.W.O.R.D. Her name is Photon, so we know at some point in the story, I'm thinking in Captain Marvel 2, we're going to see her with powers.
For sure.
And Monica saying that there's, you know, when she hears from the acting director that there's enemies all in the universe, she said, yeah, but there's also allies. And she's obviously, in my opinion, referring to Captain Marvel, who she met as a child in the standalone movie. What are your thoughts on these references back to Captain Marvel and how WandaVision is going to set up Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but she's also essentially setting up, in a way, Captain Marvel too?
Yes. Well, they always do that. They have to reach back and tie it together in a nice little bow that they usually do. I don't know how they're gonna push forward on that. Is that also gonna include Guardians of the Galaxy? You know, because they are gonna bring, you know, Nova Corps and some of that stuff back in. Yeah. So are they gonna tie that all together, or?
And we know that Xandar was annihilated.
Right.
But with Xandar, because if you think about it, we see Thanos get all of his stones except for the stone that's on Xandar.
That's right.
We never see him take the Power Stone, the Purple Stone. And so with that reality, we know that Nova obviously flew the heck off this planet, and he's alive somewhere.
For sure.
But we don't know where. We don't know why. And we don't know if Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is going to do it, or if Thor Love and Thunder is going to bring us him.
Right.
Because we know that Thor is now a Guardian of the Galaxy.
That's right.
In a way.
He's the captain, not captain.
He's the captain, not captain, that Star-Lord thinks he's the captain, you know. And I love that when he looks at him, he's like,
of course.
And he's like, of course.
Of course you're the captain.
And I love how he does that last one. He goes in the eye, he's like, of course. So we obviously know that there's going to be a big story told between Thor, Love and Thunder and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I think essentially might actually, in their own way, like a 6-hour movie, split but together.
Yeah, well, they're definitely going to do that. And they've already, I don't know if I read, did I read that's going to be the changing of the Thor?
I just want Beta Ray Bill. I know that we're going to see Thor's love. Yeah. You know, who in the comics becomes the mighty Thor. We will see Jane Foster wield the hammer Mjolnir. But I want to see Beta Ray Bill.
He's coming.
We've seen his face.
Yeah.
We've seen that he's one of the champions, but we've still not seen Beta Ray.
So they would have to do that through the Guardians of the Galaxy. They would just make sense.
And it's going to be a very interesting, very He-Man of a looking title, very like old video game title for Thor Love and Thunder, which we'll have plenty to talk about with that as it comes forward. Wanda, you're just you're making us talk about everything.
I know.
Because you might affect it all. And will you bring Spider-Gwen into the world? Who knows? Maybe.
It's coming.
This second to last topic of our conversation of WandaVision is sure to have Rob jumping out of his seat. His thoughts about being in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, what he thinks about having to relive old TV shows through the eyes of Wanda.
Very exciting.
I know that this is a touchy subject for you, Rob.
Oh, jeez.
But what are your thoughts on not only did Wanda create this world that we've been living in with her, but that she did it by decade, and that every episode, 50s, 60s, 70s, why do you think she did it? Was she trying to make Vision believe that they've had this long life together? Was she trying to live in a happy world that maybe she watched on television as a kid in Sokovia? Why did she go back to these places?
Yeah, because I think that's the way most people picture or want to picture their happy homes.
Yeah.
Is the 50s and 60s sitcom. So I guess that's the go-to if you grew up in that era. You know what I mean? So
is it almost like the child inside of her?
For sure.
Remembering the TV shows and almost like knowing that this grown woman essentially is like a broken kid.
For sure. Yep.
So we're reliving maybe her fondest memories that she used to get through life as a kid.
For sure. Or her coping mechanisms.
Yeah. This is where she's realized that she could try to create this universe and go back there. And my question to her is, eventually in her decades, she would have gotten to the 21st century. So did she even know, as she was hurling toward it, how to tackle when she had to meet fake life with real life? I don't think she was ready.
Well, I think that world is gonna end before we get to that.
Yeah, so we think that S.W.O.R.D. will probably break through
somehow.
before.
I don't know how though. It looks scary.
They'll find a way. They'll find a way. All I need to know is if we do see our guy Nick Fury, is it Nick Fury or is it a Skrull? Are the Skrulls in there? Some people have had the notion that the people that are actually in there are Skrulls as people monitoring Wanda.
Clever.
And that's who the neighbors are. They're actually Skrulls.
Is that why they're so squirrely?
And communicating with each other and whispering and kind of like understanding like this isn't real.
Yeah, but I mean, on the flip, I mean, it did show a lot of quirks. You know, like the dude cutting the wall, and you know, so. Which a Skrull
would do because he wouldn't know how to cut the bush.
Oh, now we're getting deep.
Now we're getting deep. It could be the Skrull. Listen, from Captain Marvel, we now know that these freaking Skrulls have been in the Marvel Cinematic Universe forever.
That is for sure.
You know that.
So it is possible.
So once again, Marvel, like you said, the deck of cards. We thought we knew everything from Captain America to where we were, and then when we meet Captain Marvel, we realized that the Skrulls not only existed in that movie, but if they did, that they've been on the planet for over a decade, and now we don't even know who is and who isn't.
For sure.
Which means that dead people may not be dead, and alive people may not be who we think they are.
Perfect. Bring back Iron Man.
This Wanda conversation has made 76 more Marvel movies.
Yes.
The final piece of our WandaVision show here in Superpowered Pop Meets Green Goliath for Superpowered Goliath is, what do we think is actually going on in this story? 4 episodes in, what the hell is going on in WandaVision? Episode 4 brought a lot of clarity, but also a lot of questions. So that brings us to our final piece here. Myself, Dan Tortora of Superpowered Pop, and Rob Stacy of Green Goliath, coming together for Superpowered Goliath here with you every single month, talking about the things in pop culture that you love, and then connecting them to everything here in the store at Green Goliath. So not only can we talk about it, but you can take it home with you. What is going on in WandaVision? Ultimately, in your mind, what is happening?
What is the end game?
Like, yeah. Look
All
at
right.
you. Look at you.
Perfect.
Ready for it.
I'm ready for it.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's going to happen. Obviously, they're going to have some movie ties. Hopefully, they're going to, bring in maybe a character or two.
Yeah.
But eventually, I think obviously it's going to set up going into, like you were saying, Doctor Strange, and eventually into Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, they talk about the fact that, Marvel's vision of the devil would show up in this, Nightmare, Grim Reaper, very Dormammu type of characters
This
that
is
are
exciting.
Yeah, very, very otherworldly, huge, not really a body, kind of a thought, like very scary, because Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is going to be considered a horror film, and I believe that the man who worked on Spider-Man, and we know got really dark with Doc Ock in the second one, Sam Raimi will be back.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of people don't realize, that side of the stories are pretty dark. And we haven't really seen a really dark Marvel film yet.
No.
So, I mean, everything's been like shiny Captain America, shiny Iron Man, So, I mean, yes, Thanos had some dark, thought process.
He was like Dark Barney.
Dark Barney, but this is going to be truly dark.
Yeah.
And scary. So hopefully it's done as well as the rest.
And I think that opening the door of this darker side, I believe, and I'm sorry, Marvel, that I just said dark side on a show as DC, but the reality that I think that piece by piece, and this is for another show, but we've already seen Iron Fist. We've seen Luke Cage. We've seen Jessica Jones.
Yes,
we've seen
the
Daredevil.
Fury.
We've seen we've seen Ghost Rider a little bit in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We've seen The Punisher. We're going to see Moon Knight. So I believe that Marvel is going to jump into, and we're going to see Blade. I believe Marvel is jumping into a very dark world of vigilantes known as the Marvel Knights.
Yeah, it's going to take him 10 years to get there, though.
Wanda! We've talked about 700 characters today because of you! So we'll figure out what you're doing, but all I can say is, on behalf of Rob Stacy, thank you for no longer being in a black and white television show.
Thank you. Now I can enjoy the rest of this series.
I told him it was going to be okay. It's like take two and call me in the morning. It was going to be all right.
Yeah, it was like 2.5.
Yeah, it kind of was. 2.5 episodes. So, Rob, Stacy, myself, Dan Tortora, Super Powered Pop, coming to you from the floor of Green Goliath Toys and Games on 219 County Route 57 in Phoenix, New York, in the Three Rivers Plaza. Call to see what they have, because it's always changing. 315-561-6123. That's 315-561-6123. WandaVision, we're ready for you. We appreciate y'all. And to all the fans out there, find us on our social media at SuperPoweredPop on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, on the website SuperPoweredPop, and of course our YouTube channel links that'll be on all of those for Superpowered Pop and all of our shows. And of course you can find Green Goliath Toys and Games on their social media and right here in Phoenix, New York. We look forward to seeing you, and we look forward to seeing through the eyes of Wanda and the rest of the world to see what Vision is actually the real one, and if Vision is actually alive.
He's dead.
He ain't dead.